The first time I saw Captain Elena Kross, she was covered in the purple blood of my commanding officer. I should probably back up. My name is Thalen, and I'm a data analyst for the Veskari Empire. Well, I was a data analyst. These days I'm not entirely sure what I am, except alive, which is more than I can say for most of my species. Let me paint you a scene. 3 months ago, the Veskari Council made what they called a tactical decision. I called it the stupidest thing I'd ever witnessed, but nobody asked the junior analysts for their opinions. They decided to raid a human colony on the edge of the Kepler belt. Small settlement, maybe 2,000 people, primarily mining operations. Easy target, they said. Soft species, they said. The humans won't even notice, they said. Spoiler alert, the humans noticed. The raid itself went exactly as planned, which should have been our first warning that something was wrong. We hit the colony at 0400, their local time. Minimal resistance secured the mining equipment we wanted, and left. Clean operation. Military textbook perfect. Commander Zelvac was practically grinning when we jumped back to Veskari space. See, he announced to the bridge crew. The humans are as weak as intelligence suggested. Their reputation is built on exaggeration and propaganda. I didn't say anything, but I was already running probability matrices on my console. The numbers didn't add up. A species doesn't spread across 200 systems in 3 generations by being weak. They don't establish trade routes through hostile territory by being soft. Something was off. The attack on our outpost came 6 days later. No warning, no declaration, no demands, just coordinates and coordinates away from existence. Outpost Gamma was our primary fuel depot in the sector. 4,000 personnel, defensive batteries, early warning systems, the works. It took the humans 47 minutes to reduce it to radioactive dust. Our ships arrived 3 hours later to find nothing but debris and bodies. That's when High Command started taking things seriously. That's also when they made their second massive mistake. They captured a human merchant vessel. I wasn't there for the interrogation, thank the void, but I heard the recordings. The captain's name was Marcus Webb, civilian freighter, carrying agricultural supplies to a frontier world. Wrong place, wrong time. The interrogators asked him about human military capabilities, deployment patterns, that sort of thing. Webb laughed at them. Actually laughed. You really don't understand what you've done, do you? Our interrogator, a nasty piece of work named Calrix, hit him for that. Balls broke 2 of his ribs. Webb just kept laughing, blood running down his chin. That colony you hit? The one you thought was just miners? Half those people were families, children. You killed a woman named Jessica Kross. Her husband, their 6-year-old daughter. He spat blood on the floor. Jessica's sister is a captain in the Earth Defense Fleet. Calrix hit him again. So what? One angry captain? We have an entire armada. Webb smiled then, and I swear, even through the grainy recording, that smile made my scales itch. You don't get it. Humans don't do proportional response. We don't do measured retaliation. You killed her family. He leaned forward despite the restraints, despite the pain. She's going to kill your species. They executed him an hour later. 3 weeks after that, Elena Kross entered Veskari space with a fleet of 30 ships. Now, I know what you're thinking. 30 ships against the Veskari Empire? We had over 600 vessels in our navy. The math seemed pretty straightforward. High Command certainly thought so. They sent Admiral Frexus with 200 ships to intercept. I watched the battle from the command center on our homeworld, monitoring data feeds and casualty reports. I watched Admiral Frexus's flagship, the Eternal Conquest, get split in half by a weapon system we didn't even know existed. I watched 199 Veskari warships die in the span of 4 hours. 1 human ship was damaged, not destroyed, damaged. The survivor reports were frankly terrifying. The human ships moved like nothing we'd ever seen. Their weapons punched through our shields like they weren't even there. And their tactics, void take me, their tactics were beautiful and horrifying in equal measure. But it was Captain Kross herself who made the real impression. Her ship, the Retribution, led every charge. She broadcast on open channels the entire time, her voice cold and clear. This is Captain Elena Kross of the Earth Defense Fleet. 3 weeks ago you murdered my sister, my brother-in-law, and my 6-year-old niece. Her name was Maya. She liked drawing pictures of stars. You didn't bother to learn her name before you killed her. She paused. And in that silence, another of our ships exploded. I learned all your names. Every commander, every pilot, every soldier who participated in that raid. I know where you live. I know where your families are. And I'm going to make sure you understand what you took from me. High Command ordered a full retreat after that. We abandoned the outer systems, pulled back to defensive positions around our core worlds. We thought we could fortify, wait her out, maybe negotiate. Elena Kross didn't negotiate. She spent the next month systematically destroying every military installation in our outer territories.
Halt.
Then she moved to the mid-rim systems.
Halt.
Then closer. Each time she broadcast the names of the people who died in her family's colony, all 2,000 of them. She made us listen to their names before she opened fire. I think that's what got to people more than the actual attacks. The names. The constant reminder that this wasn't a war over territory or resources or politics. This was personal. This was revenge. And revenge, as it turns out, doesn't care about your defensive positions or your superior numbers or your strategic depth. Revenge only cares about making you hurt. By the time High Command decided to sue for peace, we'd lost 400 ships and 32 installations. Kross had lost 3 ships and hadn't retreated once. The council sent our best diplomat, a smooth talker named Vex who'd negotiated treaties with a dozen species. She killed him, shot him herself on camera, and sent the recording to every Veskari frequency she could find. "You don't get peace," she said, standing over his body. "You wanted to prove humans were weak? Consider this your education." That's when they called her the Ghost of Earth. That's when the real terror started. See, up until then we'd known where she was. We could track her fleet, predict her movements. Sort of. But after Vex died, something changed. Her ships started appearing in multiple locations simultaneously. Attacks that should have required weeks of travel happened hours apart. Our intelligence networks couldn't figure out how she was moving. I spent 60 hours straight analyzing the data, trying to find a pattern. There wasn't one. Or rather, there was, but it didn't make sense with any physics we understood. The humans had somehow managed to crack near instantaneous travel, and they weren't sharing the technology with anyone. They were using it to hunt us. Outpost after outpost went dark. Colonies evacuated. Our navy, what was left of it, stopped engaging entirely. They ran, every single time. And Elena Kross chased them across half the sector. I remember the day she reached the Theta station. That's where Commander Zelvac had retreated, the one who'd ordered the original raid, the one who'd been so proud of hitting an easy target. He had 200 soldiers with him, fortified positions, enough supplies to hold out for months. She was alone. Not her fleet, just her. Single ship broadcasting on all frequencies. "Commander Zelvac, this is Captain Elena Kross. You killed my family. Come out and face me." He didn't, of course. He locked down the station and ordered his men to open fire. Her ship's shields absorbed everything. She didn't even return fire at first, just sat there, taking the hits, repeating her message. "Commander Zelvac, you killed my family. Come out and face me." This went on for 3 hours. 3 hours of constant bombardment, and her shields never faltered. Finally, Zelvac made a run for it. Tried to evacuate on a transport. She disabled his engines with a single shot, then boarded his ship. What happened next? We only know because she let one person survive to tell us. She went through that transport, past 60 armed soldiers, and she didn't kill any of them. She walked right through them, ignored their weapons, ignored their attempts to stop her, and went straight to Zelvac. The survivor said she spoke to him for exactly 90 seconds. She told him about Maya, about how she'd wanted to be an astronaut, about how she'd been sleeping when the raid happened, about how she died scared and alone. Then Elena Kross shot Zelvac in the head and walked back out. She stopped at the airlock, looked at the surviving soldiers and said 5 words that spread across our entire civilization within hours. "Tell them I'm not finished." She wasn't lying. The attacks continued, but now they were targeted. Every commander, every pilot, every soldier who'd been part of that raid, she found them. She hunted them across planets, through asteroid fields, into the deepest bunkers we could build. It didn't matter where they hid. Elena Kross found them. And she made sure we all knew why. High Command was in full panic mode by then. The Council held emergency sessions every day. Some argued for surrender, complete and unconditional. Others wanted to launch a full-scale assault on Earth itself. Force the humans to recall their demon captain. The moderates suggested offering reparations, formal apologies, anything to make it stop. None of it mattered, because Elena Kross wasn't listening to high command. She wasn't negotiating with the council. She was talking to every Veskari citizen directly. She hacked our networks and broadcast a message to every screen, every device, every communication system we had. Her face appeared everywhere. Human features, pale skin, dark hair pulled back tight, and eyes that looked like they'd seen the heat death of the universe, and decided to speed up the process. People of the Veskari Empire, she began, her voice eerily calm. Your leaders made a choice 3 months ago. They decided my family was acceptable collateral damage. They decided the lives of 2,000 human civilians were worth less than some mining equipment. They were wrong. She let that hang for a moment. I've spent the last 3 months teaching your military what that mistake costs. Now I'm going to teach the rest of you. Every military target in your empire will be destroyed. Every shipyard, every fortress, every weapons facility. When I'm done, the Veskari Empire will never threaten another species again. Someone off camera tried to interrupt her broadcast. She didn't even look, just kept talking. But I want you to understand something. This isn't about conquest. This isn't about resources or territory. This is about consequences. Your leaders thought humans were weak. They thought we wouldn't respond. They thought wrong. She leaned closer to the camera. We don't forget. We don't forgive. We don't forgive. We don't forgive. And we will cross the entire galaxy to make sure you regret ever touching one of ours. The broadcast cut out. 20 minutes later, our primary shipyards at Corvin Prime ceased to exist. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, Elena Kross has destroyed 40% of our military infrastructure. Our economy is collapsing. Our colonies are evacuating. The council is in hiding. And the human fleet, all 30 ships of it, controls more territory than our 600-ship navy ever did. I'm currently on a transport heading out of Veskari space. Not because I was involved in the raid, I wasn't. But because staying seems like a really bad bet right now. Most of the civilian population has the same idea. We're running, scattering across the sector, hoping the humans will let us go. Some of us think they will. Civilians weren't the target after all. This has always been about the military, about the people responsible. But I've studied human history. What little data we have access to. I've read about their wars, their conflicts, their capacity for violence when properly motivated, and I've learned one very important thing about humans. When you hurt them, when you really hurt them, they don't stop at the people responsible. They make sure you never have the capability to hurt them again. Which brings me back to where I started. The first time I saw Captain Elena Kross covered in my commanding officer's blood, it was 6 hours ago. I wasn't on the transport yet. I was still at the command center finishing up some final analysis work before evacuating. I was not natural the medical to minimal security. We thought we were safe. It was a data facility, not a military target. We were wrong. She walked through the front door. Not her ship, not her soldiers. Just her. One human woman in a dark uniform, carrying a weapon I didn't recognize, and moving with the kind of certainty that comes from knowing you're the most dangerous thing in the room. The security team opened fire immediately. She didn't break stride. Her personal shield flared with each impact, some kind of technology that made our best shots look like insects hitting a windshield. She walked through the crossfire, past the barricades, straight to the command level. That's where she found Director Plex, my commanding officer. He'd been coordinating the evacuation efforts, trying to save civilian lives, trying to minimize casualties. He hadn't been part of the raid. He'd actually argued against it in the initial planning sessions. None of that mattered. Elena Kross grabbed him by the throat, lifted him off the ground with strength that shouldn't have been possible, and looked him in the eyes. You work for the people who killed my family. That makes you complicit. Plex tried to speak, tried to explain, but she wasn't interested. She threw him across the room into a bank of computers, and I watched him crumple like paper. Then she saw me. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs wouldn't work. She walked toward me, boots echoing on the metal floor, and I was absolutely certain I was about to die. She stopped 3 feet away, studied me for a long moment, then asked a question I wasn't expecting. Were you there? At the colony? I shook my head, couldn't form words. Do you work directly with military operations? Another head shake. She stared at me for what felt like an eternity, then nodded once. Get out. Tell everyone what you saw here. Tell them what happens when you touch Earth's children. She turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, alive, trembling, and absolutely certain of one thing. The Veskari Empire was finished. Not because we couldn't fight, not because we didn't have the resources or the numbers, but because Elena Kross was going to make sure we never had the chance to rebuild. And the terrifying part? I think she's right to do it. I think we deserve exactly what's coming. That's the thing about revenge. When it's justified, when it's earned, when you've given someone every reason to destroy you, you can't really complain when they follow through. We killed her family, so Earth is killing our species. And honestly, after everything I've seen, everything I know about what we did, Barspare trade. The transport I'm on is called the Wandering Hope, which is either optimistic or deeply ironic depending on how you look at it. There are 372 Veskari civilians crammed into a ship designed for 200. Everyone is scared. Everyone is watching the scanners, waiting for human ships to appear and finish what Elena Kross started. I haven't told anyone what I saw back at the command center. Haven't mentioned that I looked into her eyes and lived. Some things you keep to yourself, especially when everyone around you is already one panic attack away from a complete breakdown. The ship's captain, an older female named Tira, keeps trying to maintain some semblance of order. She's doing a decent job, all things considered. Daily announcements, rationing schedules, that sort of thing. Keeping people busy so they don't think too hard about the fact that our entire civilization is crumbling behind us. I spend most of my time in the cargo bay where they've set up temporary quarters. Sleeping mats on the floor, personal belongings stuffed into whatever containers people could grab. There's a family next to me, 2 parents and 3 kids. The youngest can't be more than 4 years old. She keeps asking when they can go home. Her mother doesn't have an answer for that. None of us do. On the 5th day of our journey, the ship's alarms started blaring. Everyone froze. That particular sound, the one that means incoming vessels, the one that means potential combat, sent a wave of terror through the cargo bay that you could practically taste. Parents grabbed their children. Others grabbed whatever they thought might pass for a weapon, as if anything we had could stop what was coming. Captain Tira's voice came over the intercom, shaking slightly despite her best efforts. We have detected 3 vessels approaching our position. Tell me they are human ships. I repeat, human vessels incoming. Please remain calm and stay in your designated areas. Remain calm. Right, because that was going to happen. The cargo bay erupted into chaos. People shouting, crying, praying to whatever deities they still believed in. The family next to me huddled together, the father wrapping himself around his children like he could somehow shield them from what was about to happen. I just sat there, oddly calm, thinking about Elena Kross and what she'd told me. Tell them what happens when you touch Earth's children. Was this it? Were we about to become another lesson? 10 minutes passed, the longest 10 minutes of my life. Then Tira's voice came back, and this time she sounded confused instead of terrified. The human ships they're not attacking. They're hailing us. They want to talk. The cargo bay went silent. That somehow felt worse than the panic. Tira put the communication through to the ship-wide speakers. A human voice, male, with an accent I didn't recognize, filled the cargo bay. Veskari Transport Wandering Hope, this is Commander James Barrett of the Earth Defense Fleet vessel Steadfast. We're here to escort you to the neutral zone. You're heading toward the Kelvin system, correct? There was a long pause before Tira responded. Yes, that's correct. Are you going to attack us? Negative, Wandering Hope. Larry, we're not here for civilians. Captain Kross was very specific about that. We're here to make sure you get where you're going safely. There are pirates operating in this sector, and we'd rather not have civilian casualties on our conscience. I listened to that, and felt something break inside my chest. They were protecting us. The same humans who were systematically destroying our military, who had every reason to hate every single Veskari in existence, were sending escorts to protect civilian refugees. Someone near me started crying. Not from fear this time. The human ships stayed with us for 3 days, matching our speed, running interference when we passed through a known pirate corridor. They didn't ask for anything, didn't demand tribute or information or surrender. They just kept us safe. Then, when we reached the edge of Kelvin space, Commander Barrett hailed us one last time. Wandering Hope, you're clear from here. The Kelvins have agreed to accept refugees. They've got processing centers set up on the 4th planet. Good luck. Tira's voice was thick when she responded. Commander, I have to ask, why? Why help us after everything our military did? Barrett was quiet for a moment.
Whining.
He spoke again. His voice was softer. Because you didn't kill anyone's family. You're just people trying to survive. That's not a crime. And we're not monsters. We're just thorough. Tell your people that if they want this to stop, they need to hand over everyone involved in that colony raid. All of them. Every single person who participated or gave orders. That's the price. The transmission cut off, and the human ships jumped away, leaving us alone in Kelvin space. The cargo bay was silent for a full minute. Then someone said what we were all thinking. We need to give them what they want. The processing center on Kelvin 4 was a nightmare of bureaucracy and desperation. Thousands of Veskari refugees, all with the same story, all looking for the same thing, safety, a future, some guarantee that they wouldn't wake up to human warships overhead. The Kelvins were doing their best, but they were overwhelmed. They'd never dealt with a refugee crisis on this scale before. Nobody had. The Veskari Empire had been a major power for 6 generations. Watching it collapse in real time was unprecedented. I got assigned to a processing queue that took 14 hours. 14 hours of standing in line, shuffling forward, watching families get split up or turned away because the Kelvins didn't have enough resources. It was brutal and humiliating and necessary. When I finally reached the front, the Kelvin official processing my case looked exhausted. Her name tag said Mira, and she had the eyes of someone who'd been working without sleep for days. Name and occupation, she said, not looking up from her datapad. Thalen. I was a data analyst for the Veskari Military Intelligence Division. That made her look up. Military? Analyst, I emphasized. I processed information. I wasn't involved in combat operations or strategic planning. I definitely wasn't part of the colony raid. Mira studied me for a long moment, then made a note on her pad. You understand that the humans have requested full cooperation in identifying everyone involved in their colony attack? Yes. And you're willing to provide information if asked? I thought about Elena Kross, about the look in her eyes when she'd let me live, about Commander Barrett protecting civilians who had every reason to hate him. I thought about Maya, the 6-year-old girl who'd wanted to be an astronaut. Yes, I said. I'll tell them everything I know. Mira nodded and stamped something on my documentation. You're cleared for temporary residency. Next. I stumbled out of the processing center into the open air of Kelvin 4 and just stood there for a while letting the reality sink in. I was alive. I was safe. I had escaped. But the Veskari Empire hadn't. Over the next 2 weeks I watched the news feeds obsessively. Mail. Everyone did. It was like watching a slow-motion catastrophe, unable to look away even though every update brought worse news. Elena Kross had reached the core worlds. The Veskari Council, in a last desperate attempt at survival, had gathered the remaining fleet at our homeworld. Every ship that could still fly, every weapon that could still fire, they pulled it all back for one final stand. 300 vessels surrounding the planet where our species had evolved, where our capital city had stood for 800 years. The human fleet jumped in with 40 ships now. They'd been reinforced. The battle lasted 6 hours. I watched the live feeds from multiple sources. Civilian satellites that were still operational, refugee ships on the outskirts of the system, even a few brave journalists who'd stayed behind to document the end. It was a massacre. The human ships moved like they were alive, like they could predict where our weapons would fire before we pulled the trigger. Their shields shrugged off everything we threw at them. Their weapons vored, take me. Their weapons were surgical. They didn't just destroy ships, they disabled them, crippled them, left them floating dead in space so the crews could watch what came next. Elena Kross led the assault on the planetary defense grid herself. The retribution carved through our orbital platforms like they were made of paper. Each one that fell opened up another vector of attack, another angle for the human ships to exploit. The Council tried to surrender 3 separate times. She ignored all of them. When the orbital defenses were gone, she broadcast one final message to the planet below. I watched it on a screen in the refugee center common area, along with 200 other Veskari who couldn't tear their eyes away. Elena Kross appeared on screen and she looked tired.
Harden?
Not physically tired, but something deeper. Soul tired. The kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying grief and rage for so long that they become part of your skeleton. People of Veskari Prime, she said, her voice echoing across every channel, every frequency, every device on the planet. 3 months ago, your military attacked a human colony. They killed 2,000 civilians, including my sister, her husband, and their daughter. My niece, she was 6 years old. Her name was Maya, and she died scared and alone, while your soldiers stole mining equipment. The screen changed, showing images of the colony after the raid, bodies, destroyed homes, a child's drawing of stars, half burned. Your council has attempted to surrender multiple times today. I've rejected each attempt because surrender implies you have something to negotiate with. You don't. Your military is broken. Your fleet is scrap. Your infrastructure is gone. You have nothing left except the consequences of your choices. She paused, and behind her, I could see the blue and green of Veskari Prime through the viewport, our homeworld, the cradle of our civilization. I'm told that revenge is not justice, that what I'm doing is excessive, disproportionate, wrong. Maybe they're right. Maybe I've become something terrible in pursuit of this. But here's what I know. Maya will never draw another picture. My sister will never laugh again. My sister will never laugh again. My sister will never laugh again. 2,000 people will never go home. And I promised myself that everyone responsible would understand what they took from us. The camera pulled back, showing more of the bridge. Human officers at their stations, watching their captain, waiting for orders. I'm going to destroy your council building. The one where the decision to attack our colony was made. The one where your leaders hid while I tore apart everything you built. Then I'm done. The human fleet will withdraw, and you can start rebuilding. But understand this, Earth remembers. Humanity remembers. Touch one of ours again, anywhere in the galaxy, and I won't be the only one who comes for you. We will erase your species from existence. She looked directly into the camera, and I swear she was looking at each of us individually. You wanted to test humanity. Congratulations. You passed. Now live with your grade. The transmission cut out. 15 seconds later, the Veskari High Council building ceased to exist. A single missile, surgical precision, no collateral damage, just the building and everyone inside, gone in a flash of light that could be seen from orbit. Then the human fleet jumped away, and it was over. The common area was completely silent. Someone had turned off the news feed, but nobody moved. We just sat there, processing what we'd witnessed. The end of the Veskari Empire, not slowly, not through economic collapse or internal strife, but quickly and violently at the hands of one angry human woman and her fleet. The family I'd sat next to on the transport was across the room. The father was holding his youngest daughter, tears running down his face. Not from fear anymore, from relief. It was over. They'd survived. I thought about Director Plex, about Zelvac, about all the commanders and soldiers who'd thought raiding a human colony was good tactics. I thought about how none of them had considered that actions have consequences, that other species have families too, that some lines shouldn't be crossed. And I thought about Maya drawing pictures of stars, not knowing that her death would bring down an empire. A Kelvin official came into the common area. An hour later, she looked shaken but determined.
Attention, everyone.
We've received communication from the human fleet. They're releasing a full list of everyone they held responsible for the colony attack. Everyone on this list has been dealt with. They're also stating that any Veskari civilian who wants to return home can do so safely. They've left the core worlds untouched except for military targets. Civilian infrastructure is intact. There was a murmur through the crowd. Hope, maybe, or just exhaustion. The official continued. They're also offering aid, medical supplies, food, construction materials. They say, and I quote, "We don't wage war on civilians, we never did. This was always about accountability." Someone behind me laughed. It was a broken sound, half hysteria, half disbelief. They destroyed our empire and now they want to help us rebuild. What kind of species does that? I knew the answer to that. Humans. A species that could be kind and terrible in equal measure. A species that would cross the galaxy to avenge their dead but also escort refugees to safety. A species that understood the difference between soldiers and civilians, between the guilty and the innocent. A species we should never have tested. Over the next month I watched something remarkable happen. Humans didn't just offer aid, they delivered it. Ships arrived at Veskari Prime carrying supplies, medical personnel, engineers, They helped restore power grids, repair infrastructure, even assisted with search and rescue operations for civilians trapped in damaged buildings. Elena Kross herself made one final appearance. She came to Veskari Prime, landed her ship and walked through the ruined capital city. No weapons, no guards, just her and a small memorial stone that she placed where the colony had been attacked. The stone was simple, just a list of names, all 2,000 of them. Every person who died in the raid. At the top, in larger letters, 3 names: Jessica Kross, David Kross, Maya Kross. She stood there for an hour, not saying anything, just standing guard over the names of the dead. Veskari civilians watched from a distance, afraid to approach, afraid to disturb her. Finally, she turned to leave, and an older Veskari male stepped forward. He was missing an arm, lost in one of the battles, and he moved slowly. But he moved with purpose. "Captain Kross," he said, his voice carrying in the silence. "I need to say something." She stopped, turned, waited. "My son was a pilot. He flew escort on the colony raid. He didn't question the orders, he just followed them. You killed him 3 weeks ago." The old male's voice broke, and he deserved it. They all did. What they did was, there's no excuse, no justification. "I'm sorry. We're all sorry. It doesn't change anything. But I need you to know. We understand now. We understand what we took from you." Elena Kross stood there for a long moment, and I saw something flicker across her face. Not forgiveness, exactly, but maybe acknowledgement, recognition that the cycle was complete. "Thank you," she said quietly. Then she walked back to her ship and left Veskari space for the last time. I'm writing this from Kelvin 4, in the small apartment I've managed to secure. Some of the refugees are going back to Veskari space, trying to rebuild, old. Others are staying here, starting over. I haven't decided yet. What I do know is that the galaxy changed 3 months ago. Every species with any sense has been paying attention. They've seen what happens when you mistake human kindness for weakness. They've watched an empire fall because someone decided that human lives were expendable. The lessons are pretty clear. Don't touch their colonies. Don't threaten their families. Don't assume that because humans smile and trade and negotiate, they're soft. They're not soft. They're patient. They're reasonable. They're willing to give you every chance to do the right thing. But if you push them, if you cross the line, if you make it personal, they will move mountains to make sure you regret it. They will chase you across the galaxy. They will dismantle everything you've built, and they'll make sure everyone is watching when they do it. The Veskari Empire is gone now. Not extinct, but broken. Scattered. Learning to survive instead of conquer. Learning that actions have consequences. Learning that some species, some individuals, some families are not worth the cost of testing. Moeing survived because I wasn't part of it. I survived because Elena Kross, for all her rage and grief and determination, could still tell the difference between the guilty and the innocent. A lot of Veskaris survived for the same reason, that the ones who pulled the trigger, who gave the orders, who decided that human lives didn't matter, they didn't survive. They became lessons, examples, warnings to every other species in the galaxy. They killed her family, so Earth killed their species. Not all of us, just the parts that mattered. Just enough to make sure we never forget. And we won't. Trust me. We won't. Because I was there. I saw Elena Kross covered in my commander's blood. I looked into her eyes and saw the kind of determination that moves planets. I lived because she let me live, and I'll spend the rest of my days making sure people remember why. Remember what happens when you test humanity. Remember what happens when you kill their children. Remember that kindness and mercy are choices, not weaknesses. And remember Maya Kross, age 6, who wanted to be an astronaut and never got the chance. Her aunt made sure she got a different kind of immortality, the kind that reshapes civilizations and rewrites history, the kind that makes sure no one ever forgets her name. They killed her family, Earth killed their species, and somehow in the math of revenge and justice and consequences, that equation balanced out. Maybe that makes us all monsters. Maybe it makes us all victims. Or maybe it just makes us people trying to survive in a galaxy that's bigger and crueler and more unforgiving than we ever imagined. I don't have answers anymore. I just have this story, this testimony, this warning, this warning. Pass it on. Make sure everyone knows. Make sure they understand. Humanity remembers.